Greetings, fellow winos, and welcome to the second episode of the Grumpy Old Wino. In today's episode, I'm going to try and solve some of the confusion that all of us are faced with when we go to a wine shop and see all those wine bottles and all those wine labels, and what does it mean? What are they trying to tell us? Oh no! I'm going to just walk you through a few basics on wine labels, what they tell you, what's important, what is perhaps maybe not so important, and hopefully you'll find this useful the next time you are faced with a bottle of wine. We're going to start out with a Napa Valley red wine. Napa Valley, of course, rose to prominence back in the 70s along with other California wines when it beat the heck out of some French wines in a tasting in France, much to the shock and awe of the wine press in the world. And as a result, we have now gone from a few dozen wineries in California to several thousand wineries in California. This particular wine is a Cabernet Sauvignon. Cabernet Sauvignon is actually a type of grape. It's a varietal, is the fancy word for it, but it's basically just a kind of grape. It happens to make some of the world's greatest red wines. This is particularly fine red wine. It's made by Randy Dunn, hence the name Dunn Vineyards. It's quite clearly labeled Napa Valley Cabernet Sauvignon. And like all wines worthy of aging and serious attention, it gives us the vintage, 2004, not quite ready yet. And it gives us one more important piece of information, which is that this comes from a subsection of the Napa Valley that has been officially recognized as having its own particular characteristics that are worthwhile, and it's called Howell Mountain. And now, for a little change of pace, we have another red wine from California, but this time it's a Pinot Noir from Sonoma County. Pinot Noir is another varietal. It's just a different type of grape. It has its own characteristics, its own flavors, and things like that. In addition to being a Russian River Valley portion of Sonoma, much like Howell Mountain is a portion of Napa, they actually give you the name of the individual vineyard from where the grapes were harvested. On top of all the normal information that you find in the wine label, the year, the producer, this wine label also tells you something extra. It says that it was estate bottled, which means that the people who made the wine also grew the grapes. So they went from grower to bottle. Alright, now we're going off to France. This area can give people headaches because they've been fussing around with their wine labels for a few centuries. However, there are just a few things that will help you through at least these two popular French wines that I'm going to show you today. The first is a French Bordeaux. Bordeaux's are normally considered the equivalent of Cabernet Sauvignon. On this label, you'll notice some things that you saw before, like the vintage, the name of the producer, the area that it came from, but you'll notice some new things, this Grand Cru Classe, and some missing things. Where does it tell you what kind of grape went into this? It doesn't. It just assumes that you know that red Bordeaux's are blends of 5 or 6 different kinds of red wines. The primary one is usually Cabernet Sauvignon, but Merlot and Cabernet Franc also tend to dominate. There are a couple other ones you don't need to worry about. Those are the main types of varietals that are used in making red Bordeaux. The French assume that you know what Grand Cru means. You know, that back in 1855, a whole bunch of winemakers got together and decided, okay, we're going to decide whose wine is the best, and we're going to classify them all. We'll all call ourselves Grand Cru, but we'll organize them into 5 different tiers. And they went back and did it again in 1955. Hopefully in 2055, they'll get rid of all this nonsense. The important thing is, this is a very nice red wine. It's from Bordeaux. It's made by Chateau Talbot. And by the way, in Bordeaux, they don't say estate bottled. If it's a Grand Cru, whoever's name is on it, they own the vineyards, they make the wine. You can actually go visit the vineyards and the little chateau that they usually have sitting there that they make the wine in. It's very cute. On to our next bottle. We are moving to another famous winemaking region of France with similarly frustrating label issues, but the important thing is to remember that this is a red Burgundy. Red Burgundies are Pinot Noirs. They can't be anything else by law, if somebody tried to sell a wine called Burgundy that wasn't made of Pinot Noir, the French, well, they wouldn't shoot them, but they'd arrest them. Anyway, let's take a look at this label. As usual, we have things like the vintage, the winemaker, the area where the grapes came from. Once again, of course, it doesn't tell you what kind it is. You're supposed to know this is a red Burgundy wine. Of course, it doesn't say Burgundy on it. You're supposed to know the Clos de la Roche is one of the Grand Cru vineyards from a particular area within Burgundy. But don't worry about that. The important thing is, Burgundies are really yummy if you can get them and afford them. But enough about wine labels. Let's drink some wine. This is a nice little Premier Cru Pinot Noir from Burgundy. Assuming I can get the capsule off. Cheers.